I'm glad you could all make it to my slumber party. I hope you're having a good time.
It's been a blast so far. We watched a scary movie, ate a load of junk food.
Braided Roddy's hair.
I love it.
So, what should we do next?
We could sneak upstairs and steal some booze.
I did that as soon as I got here.
We could go to sleep.
It's 8 p.m. I know, let's tell some spooky stories.
I don't want to, I'm scared.
Have you heard the one about the guy hiding under the bed who licks the girl's hand and she thinks...
Yes, boring.
How about the one where if you see a car with no headlights on and you flash it, the driver hunts you down and kills you?
That's so overused.
I have a way better one.
Better than the one about the group of film students who got tricked into paying thousands of dollars for a worthless college certificate?
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, it happened to some friends of mine.
Terrifying.
No, this story is about a podcast.
What's a podcast?
It's like a radio show that no one listens to.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, there's this one podcast about movie sequels called Bad with Numbers.
That's a stupid name for a podcast.
Yeah, it sounds like some kind of financial planning show.
Or something for people with dyscalculia.
Right. Well, anyway, apparently if you play this podcast backwards, it sends you directly to a purgatory where you have to watch shitty sequels once a week until the end of time.
Found it.
Wait, really?
Yeah, it's available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
And Stitcher.
And Google Podcasts. And wherever good podcasts can be found.
So, should we try it?
No way. What if the legend's actually true and we end up...
Doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Parallel deals that in your fan maps low east rest because the roadside office are month of Abbas in the club.
Okay, stop. I don't like it.
No, come on. You scared?
No, I just mean the production value is occasionally questionable.
Yeah, fine.
Did it work?
Nah, it's just a stupid story.
Wait, did you hear that?
It sounded like a theme song?
Okay, stop screwing around now.
It wasn't me.
There it is again. It sounds like it's...
It's coming from inside the house.
Why is the TV playing Speed 2 Cruise Control? Nobody owns that movie.
The legend's true! We're doomed! So, do any of you guys have a favorite urban legend?
Mine is that really dumb one about the firefighting plane that accidentally picks up a diver, and then when it dumps the water on the forest fire, later on they find like a dead dude in a tree wearing like a scuba diving suit.
Oh, that's from they use that in the start of Magnolia.
Did they?
In the P.T. Anderson movie Magnolia,
Yeah.
They tell like this little kind of like thing about coincidences, and that's one of the examples they use. I didn't know that was like a known urban legend outside of that movie.
See, I probably got it from. Does anybody remember Beyond Belief that was on TV in the 90s?
No.
Oh, okay. I said
Vaguely.
90s. I just outed myself. It was hosted by Jonathan Frakes.
Oh,
It was a fucking stupid show that played these little short segments about urban myths and legends and stuff. And it's like, can you guess if they're true? And you have to guess whether it's true. And then...
Oh, wait, now I remember. As a kid, you're like, you would bet, like, fact! Fiction?
Fact or fiction? Yeah, and then Jonathan Frakes would make you feel like a fucking idiot. Yeah.
fucking Riker.
Now I'm just imagining how he sits in seats. But for mine, I won't lie, when I was looking at urban legends, I was confused on what an urban legend is. But I did come across one that seemed pretty entertaining. It's the one about the baby train.
The what?
Because it seems so positive and uplifting. I think that's why I liked it.
Wait, a baby train?
Yeah, at first I was like reading this and I was like, oh, I hope this doesn't turn dark. But what it's actually about is that there's a small town that lives by a train, and then during one time, like at like 1 a.m. in the morning, the train honked, and then all the residents were like awoken. But then they're like, oh, I don't want to go back to bed, so let's have sex. And
Okay.
then and so that was the cause of the baby boom. And I was like, look at that. That's a lovely,
Wow.
happy ending
What?
story.
Wow. Where
All
was this
right.
meant to have taken place?
I don't know. It's an urban legend.
Oh, okay. I guess. It could be
That
anywhere,
means
right?
it could happen anywhere, yeah.
Okay, I
A
guess.
bunch of people being awoken by a train. It's the not natural. It's a man-made aphrodisiac. Train sounds.
Nice. Laura, you got one?
The one that always sticks out in my mind is the girl with the ribbon around her neck.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, creepy.
Yeah, and then when you remove the ribbon, then her head falls off.
Okay, I don't know any of the. I mean, I kind of knew the Megan's one, but I haven't heard this.
That one was in one of the editions of Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, wasn't it?
I think so. That sounds very, yeah.
That was hot. No, that was haunting. I remember like being a kid
Yeah.
and then reading that and just be like, her head fell off. I don't like it.
Don't ever touch my ribbon.
Yeah, it was so weird.
But then she doesn't die. So that's still happy ending. She just has to reattach it back.
They grew old together.
Yeah.
And then he was dying, and she's like, "Okay, sure, you can pull the ribbon off now." And then yeah, her head fell off while they were both old, and that's just crazy to me.
Oh, that's not the version I heard. The version I heard was
that. Yeah.
he does it like just after they get married while she's sleeping. He can't help himself, and then like he pulls the ribbon and he unties the ribbon, and then her head just rolls off.
I was advertised the nice gentleman version.
Yeah.
Where men respect.
Wow, that's pretty macabre. I've never heard that one.
Yeah, that one was crazy.
My favorite one is actually kind of more a sort of, it's not true life, but there's a place in New Jersey called Clifton. It's in Passaic County. And apparently there's an old disused railway tunnel there that apparently holds the gates to hell inside it.
Oh.
This place is creepy as fuck. I was reading like testimony on this. Apparently, like there are sort of antechambers hidden inside this tunnel where devil worshippers all like do weird things like planting dead trees exactly 3 feet apart from each other, and then putting dead cats and birds tied to each tree and stuff. Apparently, there is like some kind of hole in the middle of this railway tunnel, and at the bottom of it is a concealed granite manhole that apparently leads directly to hell.
Huh.
And like it's like a local thing there, but like the local kids dare each other to go in there, and there are just like untold amounts of stories about people like either seeing shadowy figures, like rocks being thrown out of the tunnel at people that try and go inside it and stuff like that. It's creepy as fuck when you read up on it, and also it is only a 7-hour 30-minute drive from here, so we should definitely go and check it out.
I'm like hard pass. I learned my lesson from watching every single film. It's like, just don't go. Just don't go. You guys have fun. And if it's FOMO, fine.
Look at Roddy enjoying his life. What is this?
It's like, no, it always turns out bad. It's like my personality type is like, oh, that's like danger and there's like a high risk of dying. Okay, let me not go do that.
Yeah.
Aw, where's your reckless abandon?
Yeah, man, come on. Where's your sense of adventure? You don't want to go to hell, see what hell's like?
Yeah, hell sounds great.
It's also the States and like insurance, and it'll be travel insurance back then. I don't know if it covers the gates of hell.
I love the fact that you're kind of balancing the fact that this may be the entrance to hell with the fact that it is also in the United States of America, which is problematic in and of itself. Sorry, US listeners, we love you.
But like, what travel insurance would cover trips to hell? That's what I would want to know.
Good luck claiming that one back.
Just take photos of the damage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Receipts.
Oh my god.
The border agent that's just like, what's your essential trip right now? And we said, oh, we're gonna go to hell. Also known as New Jersey.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, you're going to New Jersey.
Yeah.
Suck it, New Jersey. I know. I love you, New Jersey. You're the Garden State. You're beautiful.
They just tell us, say hi to Bill and Ted, and like, oh, okay.
Oh, nice.
Exactly. There you go. Welcome to Bad with Numbers, a podcast where we talk about terrible sequels. I am Neff, joined as always by the loves of my life, the apples of my eyes, Laura,
Hi.
Roddy,
Sorry, I was just so touched by all those compliments. But hi.
and Megan.
Hi.
And this week on the show, we are talking about Urban Legends Final Cut from the year 2000, directed by John Ottman. This is the only feature John Ottman ever directed because, like Walter Murch on our Return to Oz episode, he's primarily a film editor, having worked on a lot of, Bryan Singer movies.
Oh.
But he is also a very accomplished composer. He wrote the scores for movies like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, The Cable Guy, X-Men 2, and The Nice Guys.
Oh, that's why there was such a big plot point about editing.
Oh yeah, he's got a big background as an editor. He's done most of Singer's movies, but he's done a lot of other films as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we won't hold that against him. Were you guys familiar with Urban Legends as a franchise?
Yeah.
Yes.
No.
I saw the first one in theaters when I was in high school.
Blockbuster days. Basically, you go to a family party, someone decides to rent it, and then you have no choice to watch it, and then they tell you to cover your eyes for all like the scary stuff or the sex. So yeah.
Okay. Laura, you didn't know this franchise?
No, like I had no clue that this was ever a thing.
I definitely saw the first one in theaters. I hadn't seen this one before, so this was like a blind bet on our part. We did not know what we were letting ourselves in for here.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like the first one when it came out. We'll get into it in a minute, but it kind of came out around the same time as movies like I Still Know What You Did Last Summer and
Yeah.
Scream 3 was around that time. It kind of felt like that whole crescendo of like late 90s slasher movies had peaked at that point, and I always felt the first movie was kind of bleh. Watched it again this week, and I stand corrected. It's actually kind of fun. It's decent.
Yeah.
We'll get into that in a moment. Should we just do like a little background just before we start talking about this piece of cinema?
It is a piece of cinema.
So the first Urban Legend came out in September 1998. Like I said, it was like riding a wave of revived interest in slasher movies in that period. It was written by Silvio Horta, who was a recent graduate of the Tisch Art School at NYU, and he actually wrote the script while he was working at the perfume counter at Nordstrom.
Well, that's a lovely story.
Yeah, sure. He shopped it all around studios, and most of the studios passed on it until a fairly new company called Phoenix Pictures, who were co-founded by Mike Medavoy, who's a well-known Hollywood mogul, picked it up and kind of greenlit the project. After a bunch of rewrites, rookie Australian director Jamie Blanks joins the project. He went on to direct Valentine, woof, and not much else of interest after that, and the film goes into production early 1998. They assemble a stacked cast of young talent, most of whom were like carving out careers in TV at the time, including Alicia Witt, Jared Leto, who was like hot off My So-Called Life at this point, Joshua Jackson, who was like, you know,
Pacey,
big because of Dawson's Creek, Tara Reid, she keeps cropping up on this fucking podcast, and Rebecca Gayheart, we'll get to her in a bit. They also have like a bunch of horror icons in supporting roles, including Chucky himself, Brad Dourif, and Freddy Krueger. Robert Englund is in that movie playing a professor.
Snooty professor. Yeah.
Yeah. The movie was shot here in Toronto with U of T standing in for the fictional Pendleton University. It becomes like a moderate hit. It opens to like 10 million and it goes on to make like 40 million. And then it becomes a huge hit on DVD. It was kind of one of the first movies to be released on DVD. So like it got ate up in the process of that. Side note to this, and this is kind of a bummer, Silvio Horta was also the showrunner on Ugly Betty, which, you know, was a massively popular show.
Now I'm sad now.
Yeah, he sadly died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound in a Miami hotel in January 2020, and he was only 45 years old, so that kind of sucks. Anyway, the first movie is popular enough that a sequel gets greenlit with a script by Paul Harris Boardman, who's mostly a script doctor on things these days, and Scott Derrickson, who's gone on to direct movies like Sinister, which is a really underrated horror movie. I kind of love Sinister. And the first Doctor Strange movie was directed by him as well.
Oh, wow.
They shot it again in Ontario, this time with Trent University in Peterborough doubling for the fictional school.
Really?
Yep.
And apparently Ottman shot like a whole much longer movie that gave the characters a lot more room to breathe, but the studio kind of insisted on them keeping it under 100 minutes to keep the pace tight, so a lot of that stuff apparently just got left on the editing room floor. And given by the amount of characters that are in this movie, it definitely shows.
Yep.
Anyway, Urban Legends Final Cut comes out in cinemas on September 22nd, 2000. Let's do the box office for it. It opens...
I'm a bet number one.
Number one.
Yeah, I win.
Yeah, opens at number one. 8.5 million on its opening weekend, which is pretty low, but then this was back in the time when September was kind of a dead spot for movies still. It's a little different now. It's kind of like a launching platform for like the awards movies nowadays, but...
TIFF.
Yeah, sure, TIFF kind of gives everything a bump as well, but 8.5 million is not terrible for a horror sequel in 2000. Number two that weekend was a reissue of The Exorcist, this time in the director's cut format. Any Exorcist fans here?
I've seen it.
I don't watch it because it gives me nightmares. Ooh, but this TV show has John Cho. For those people that don't know, I like John Cho.
Yeah, we noticed.
Yeah! Yo, Asian representation.
He's only in the second season of that show, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, no, this is the director's cut of The Exorcist. I'm not a huge fan of that cut. It's got like the famous spider walk sequence was reinstated into it, but I kind of prefer the theatrical one.
Yeah.
But on the whole, love it. One of my favorite horror movies. Number 3 that weekend was one of my favorite movies, period. It's Almost Famous.
Good movie.
Are you crying thinking about it? Thinking of those emotional scenes? Being compared to beer? What kind of beer?
Yeah, I know. That's harsh, that scene. Almost Famous has like my favorite closing line in a movie ever, where Patrick Fugit's character asks Billy Crudup, so what is it that you love about music? And then Billy Crudup just kind of leans on his chair and goes, to begin with, everything. Such a good closing line. Love that movie so much. Literally looking at a huge fuck off poster for it right now in my lounge. So yeah. Number 4 that weekend, Bring It On.
Yes!
Oh, okay.
Also, I wanted to ask you that poster of Almost Famous right next to your poster of Urban Legends Final Cut.
No, sadly not. It's next to a Big Trouble in Little China poster. Sorry. My Urban Legends Final Cut poster is currently hanging in my bathroom right above my toilet.
Which is where you contemplate the most, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, but Bring It On, yes.
Bring It On. Who doesn't love Bring It On, right?
It didn't age that well, to be honest.
You don't think?
No.
I watched it quite recently and I thought it kind of still held up pretty well.
I don't know. It's like so ingrained in my youth that like I now know, and I'm scared to watch it again. Will it just change everything? Because like Hey Mickey, we were singing all the time. And it's the definitive cheerleading movie. You can talk about any cheerleading. It's like Bring It On's the first thing you go. I don't think anything else has topped it.
All Cheerleaders Die.
Was that good?
Yeah, I like that movie. And at number 5 that weekend, our boy Keanu in The Watcher, where he's playing a serial killer opposite James Spader's psychologist. I think he's a psychologist. I don't know, man. Keanu is a serial killer. It ain't a good fit.
Yeah, I was like, I've never heard of that. I'm like, it's because I guess people don't want to see Keanu doing that stuff. They want to see him stealing cameras from directors. Or paparazzi. That's what he did. There we go. And sitting lonely on a bench.
That was the box office for Urban Legends Final Cut. Let's get into this movie. Just going to lay all my cards out on the table here. Kind of love this movie.
Why?
What?
Was it because of just nostalgia of film school?
No, not at all. I kind of vibed with this movie way more than I was anticipating to. We'll get into it, I guess. But
No, I want... What? So, no, this is my emotions right now.
No, I need explanation. I need answers because this was a fucking chore.
I wouldn't say, I'm like, I can see...
Oh, stop it. It was a chore.
I mean, it had a lot of good ideas, but the execution left some things to be desired.
Yeah, okay. I'm not going to argue the film's clumsy.
Yeah.
It's really clumsy in its execution, but I kind of vibed with where this movie was coming from. I thought this movie was a lot more fun than I was anticipating it was going to be. I think it has, like I say, we'll get into it. I think it has a lot of kind of touchstones in like real cinema that a lot of slashers around this time didn't have. And maybe the fact that Ottman was like a debut director on this meant that he probably wasn't quite skilled enough to pull them off in a sort of correct way, but at the same time, so I texted you guys earlier and said, oh, my notes for this were all garbled and I'm gonna have to watch it again this afternoon. My notes were fine. I just wanted to watch it again because I kind of enjoyed it.
I feel hurt.
Liar.
Deceived. But no, I could see, like, I will say when a movie started, I was like not having it because even as it started, I was like, first off, the title opening, like, why are you spelling this out all weirdly and annoyingly?
Yeah.
With a U and L and then O and then O too. I was like, I don't know how to read this.
What letters?
Like, usually it will just be Urban Legends and then Final Cut. It's like, you don't need this weird, I don't know. It's like someone was having fun with like that transition and it was like, let's just add a little spice.
See, what also got me is that this movie had no right to be knocking like this fake film that they're making and saying how awful it is, when this film is garbage. You don't get to like shit on your fictional directors and say that he made this really bad film when you're making a garbage film.
See, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say that that's the gag. That was intentional.
Too meta. No.
I'm going to give this movie the benefit of the doubt and say that this is just one big meta prank on slasher movies. All right, let's break this shit down. This thing, aside from credits that Roddy obviously fucking hated,
it makes no sense.
Okay, dude. This film opens with like a hoary old fake out, the old movie within a movie gambit, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
We get these people on a plane and the plane is, in some kind of turbulent trouble. There's a reference to the amazing Twilight Zone episode with Shatner where they see like the gremlin on the wing, right? I kind of love that. I love a good movie within a movie fake out at the start of a film.
Nope.
I guess with the fake out though, like as I was watching, like I guess it explains all the logical gaps. Because like it opens, like obviously they're going to the Mile High Club, and I'm like, fine, like whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was the pun. I'm like, okay, if it went in that kind of kept in that direction of the camp, I feel like I would like love this more. But then it didn't.
It is a very dumb premise for a film because, like, a slasher on a plane, and it's like, well, there's really nowhere for you to run when the plane's in the air.
I mean, I kind of like that idea.
There were so many knives on the plane.
Yes, and it was only like this. They were only in there for like not even a minute.
Yeah, sure. So let's clarify that this couple decide to go off and join the Mile High Club by having sex in an airplane bathroom. Might I add, the notion to me of having sex in an airplane toilet is one of the grimmest fucking things I can think of. Those bathrooms are rank. They are tiny, gross.
They're terrifying.
Which movie was it? I think it was Vegas Vacation where they try to have sex in the plane in the airplane bathroom. And it's a fucking disaster. Like his foot gets stuck in the toilet. And like
you just threw Chevy Chase into the sex equation, and that makes it even fucking worse.
She gets her hair caught on something. It's just like this totally perfectly awkward scene demonstrating why having sex in an airplane bathroom is not as feasible as most people might think.
But also, might I add that while they're in that bathroom having sex, we get this amazing cunnilingus joke where it says in lipstick or blood or whatever on the mirror, it says "You're going down," and she reads it out and he's like, you know it. Love it. Amazing gag.
That's what I meant, but it's like the camp. If it kept on doing that, but then it got serious. Did it get? I don't know.
Look, by the time they enter the cabin, everybody's already passed out because I don't know, it's decompressed or something.
Oh no, I think they're all straight up dead. I think because that
dead.
woman's been stabbed.
No, he definitely stabbed a bunch of people, but he didn't stab all of the passengers in the short amount of time it took them to get out of the bathroom. Like,
oh yes, he did.
Yeah, I figured he did.
Because something happens, and then the oxygen masks drop down, and then everybody's just she walks into the cabin, and it's just complete silence.
Well, before that, we find out that the person responsible for this is the flight attendant, who, might I add, looked a bit like John Mulaney.
A little bit,
or at least I thought he looked a bit like John Mulaney when I was watching it. Maybe I was just thinking about John Mulaney. I hope he's okay.
It's such a weird setup because it's like, well, you've already stabbed the pilot. Everybody on the plane, including the murderer, is going to die. Why would you continue stabbing people after you've stabbed the pilot? Like, you've pretty much ensured their deaths.
I guess the smart thing that the movie did do is that, like, we're having all these questions, and by the time we want them answered, it just goes, fake out!
Yeah.
So we never get the answer.
She starts trying to radio down or something, which makes sense. It's
Mayday!
Oh my god, I love Kate. That's what I mean. Like, I actually really love this actress because she made it so funny. Like when she's like going on and having her like her feet up onto like the actual console, whatever. I'm like, yes. Would I be like that in a panic? But I don't know. But all I know is it's funny.
Yeah, she's taking the same position in the cockpit that she was in the bathroom, which intrigues me.
And look, this actress playing Sandra, I think she's great because it is hard to be an actor and play bad acting as an actor. I think she does a fucking great job of portraying this.
No, I agree.
Yes, it actually is really hard to do that. I don't. You guys aren't Star Trek fans, really, are you? Do you watch a lot of Star Trek? There's an episode of TNG where Riker's doing a play about a guy in a mental institution. And it never occurred to me, like, first of all, I didn't fully appreciate until that moment that Jonathan Frakes is legit a good actor. It's just that his character in Star Trek is so broad. And when he's playing Riker acting in this play, he's actually acting like for real. For the stage,
right?
In a proper character.
Okay,
so it's like Jonathan Frakes is playing a really broad actor, a really broad character who's apparently really good at acting in plays. And then the show itself is like he starts confusing the play for real life, and it's this weird. Anyway, it's a weird fucking
acting
episode.
As acting is tough.
It's it is tough.
We get this reveal that this is all a student film, apparently. The fact that this film has a full-size plane set suggests to me that this is not a fucking student film. That is not how student films work.
Yeah, where the fuck did they get that?
Oh, the truth is, on the Wikipedia, where they got it is that they weren't going to shoot it with like an actual. They didn't have the plane to begin with, but then they somehow found last minute that they could use the plane from Pushing Tin, and they're like, "Well, we need to shoot it."
Wait, the John Cusack movie?
I think so.
What?
So I guess that made use of what they had. So you got to give them props for that.
Because one of the little factoids said that scene was actually, despite the fact that from the outside it looks like they're filming it on a fake plane, the inside parts were actually filmed on a real plane or something.
Well, that just doesn't make any sense. Because when we cut to the actual set of this movie, they're literally just filming a cockpit. So where the fuck is the rest of this plane set that they're on?
Exactly. Like that's why it doesn't make any sense. Because it cuts to it and it's just the cockpit, and it's like, where the fuck did they film the rest of it?
Also, this is a very abusive movie set. This director is a real piece of shit. You would not be able to get away with talking to people on a movie set like that in 2021. I'm sorry.
He said, and I quote, "Get something right or I'll kill you."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that guy's cancelled. Enter Jennifer Morrison as our heroine. I always get her confused with Ginnifer Goodwin, possibly because they were both on that Once Upon a Time show. But I like Jennifer Morrison. I think she's kind of great in this movie. And the year before, she was also in another legitimately great horror movie, Stir of Echoes, which is a cool little film.
I haven't seen that movie in years.
She plays the ghost. Spoilers, I guess.
Really?
But, yeah.
She plays the ghost.
Yep.
Huh.
Yeah, so basically these guys are all film students making student films at what apparently is the greatest film school that ever existed, according to like the people that run it. So it's obviously not any film school I ever fucking went to.
So the entire school is a film school is the takeaway here. Okay.
I don't think so. I think they're operating out of something called the Orson Welles Film Complex, which is a little on the nose.
Yeah, it was like,
given that we get a great big fucking Touch of Evil poster in this movie as well. But yeah, we cut to them like being given their kind of prep for their final semester, and enter Hart Bochner here as the head of the film department, because apparently David Duchovny didn't want to be in this movie. Hart Bochner, most famous for playing Ellis in Die Hard, Holly Gennaro's co-worker, who's just like a coked up mess all the way through that movie. This film comes out like 12 years after Die Hard, and that guy has not aged at all. He looks exactly the same. We also get introduced to Anthony Anderson in this movie.
Yeah. It's a small role.
I don't know. I guess this was early in his career.
Yeah.
he's just kind of around.
He doesn't have a lot to do, and he kind of disappears for the end of the movie as well. Oh, wait, no, it's because he dies. Anyway, we'll get to that. Also here is Joey Lawrence from TV's Blossom.
Really?
Not a single whoa uttered in this movie, but never mind.
I did not recognize him at all.
I felt like he was like trying really hard to step away, and that's why he was playing such a dick in this movie.
He is playing a huge dick in this movie, yeah.
He is a piece of shit in this film. It's kind of great.
I didn't fucking recognize him. And this was in 2000. Oh my god.
This was only like 5 years after Blossom finished. If you want to know what Joey Lawrence is doing nowadays, just Google the movie Money Plane. You're welcome. Enjoy. Anyway, despite the fact that this film is called Urban Legends, I wasn't really familiar with any of these legends apart from the one with the kidney that we'll get to. But
yeah, I mean, the first one had some classics like the Pop Rocks and the soda and the call coming from inside the house and
sure, and the hitchhiker in the back of the car and stuff.
Like that one was all like classic stories that college students tell each other when they're getting pissed.
Sure, I kind of feel like they maybe burned through all of those in the first movie, and they were kind of clutching at straws for this one.
Like that blows my mind that they couldn't come up with better urban myths for this one. I mean, I get the kidney thing, and I hate that scene.
I feel like they were having more fun doing more of the film school vibe and film aesthetic and film homages than the actual urban legends. Because like looking at it, like Ness said, like the beginning was Twilight, and there's a whole bunch of other influences that are in this film, and I feel like that became the focus, and the whole urban legend thing became just like a passing thing, just as much as like first off, the Jennifer Morrison just like comes up with her thesis like on the get go. It felt like just a passing thought. There's no thought to this thesis at all. Sorry.
I like the way she kind of just turns out a screenplay in like a couple of days as well. I'm like, come on. Doesn't quite work like that. But I don't know. I kind of like the film school stuff in this film.
Where she walks into the office and the one guy's like going on about mise en scène versus cinema verite. And what is cinema verite except the absence of staging? And I'm like, oh my God.
I found it all way less obnoxious than the film school scene in Scream 2.
Oh.
When they're all kind of sat around fucking talking about sequels.
Sequels suck.
That scene to me is just super obnoxious, and it doesn't help that you've got like Jamie Kennedy spewing out a load of fucking impressions in that as well. But
that's honestly, I feel like more of the Kevin Williamson style, like very on the nose and self-aware. Like this movie is not supposed to be self-aware, so that's why it's just kind of like this is just people talking about film school stuff for the most part.
I'm gonna argue that this movie is self-aware.
I mean, it goes back to like just like mentioned in that scene, life imitating art, and vice versa, and you know that like the guy basically presents the thesis of the entire movie, which is like cinema verite versus mise en scène, you know, staging versus real life.
Also, we get Loretta Devine here playing the same character she played in the first movie.
Yeah.
Reese, the security guard. Kind of like that she's like referencing Pam Grier movies left, right, and center here. Yeah, she's got the gun from Foxy Brown. She's like referencing Coffee. Love a bit of Pam Grier.
Yeah.
Anyway, she's kind of just here to sort of like fill me in on the first movie kind of exposition dump, right?
Imagine she didn't run into Jennifer Morrison. We would not have a movie. If she did not discover,
that's true.
So she's the only reason this movie exists.
Well, the killer still would have killed. It's just that the theme that he picks for his killing would have been slightly different, I guess.
We cut to a bar. Not cool. This guy roofies a girl's drink in the bar. And I was kind of like praying there was going to be some sort of spin on this. And there is, because he's not actually going to sexually assault her.
Mm-hmm.
He just removes one of her kidneys instead.
It's like, I hated this scene because the first time I watched it, I was confused. I was like, did I miss something? I had to back up, and I was like, no, they're not. And when I was remembering it later, I'm like, wait, was that was that supposed to be real, or was like that part of a movie? And it was getting confused in my head. And when I looked, it was part of Reissue's, basically. They invented a fucking character for Reissue. So this girl, Lisa?
Yeah, this character played by Jacinda Barrett she's not referenced before. She's never mentioned again for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, so, like, we already don't know what's his face very well at this point when it has that scene. And then we meet her, and then there's, like, this whole protracted scene of her getting roofied and then getting abducted and then waking up in a tub full of ice. And then, you know, and then she tries to escape.
Yeah, sure. But before that, anybody notice the drinks are not being mixed by the bar staff? They're just being picked up off a tray?
Yeah.
What kind of fucking bar is that? And also, they do this weird thing where you see somebody slipping something into these drinks, but then we cut to this guy Toby, played by Anson Mount, who is this kind of the dick film director from earlier, and he's very intently watching her drinking the drink. So I'm assuming that that's meant to be kind of like a sort of red herring that he may be the killer in this movie, except it's all just a little too obvious and a little too early in the movie for that to kind of come into play. It feels very kind of weird the way that they use his character in this scene.
Well, none of their red herrings really worked in this film in general. Like, none of them. Like, even when this movie started, when they were in the professor's room, I was like, suspicious. And then know what? Everyone else was too on the nose. The PA, every time they zoomed on this PA, I'm like, no, stop it. It's not the PA. It's like,
really? I thought that they were just being obnoxious enough about it. I was like, maybe. Because I thought that they were trying to make Toby the red herring. I thought that they were so focused on making the revenge guy, right? And then I thought about how, you know, the PA Scroat was, being treated poorly and blah, blah, blah. So then when they did the final scene, I was like, oh my god, it actually... And then they fucked me over.
And that's kind of what I love about this whole kind of raft of slasher movies that came out out of this time. It's not so much the killing and the violence. It's more the whodunit kind of mystery aspect that these movies were pushing.
Yeah.
I remember seeing Scream in a theater when it came out and just getting such a kick out of trying to figure out who the fucking killer was. And Scream is just a masterclass in misdirection for setting this stuff up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it kills off Billy Loomis and you think he's done, and then, oh, surprise, he's not dead, he is the killer. Spoilers for Scream, I guess, sorry. But and also that was kind of what I loved about these. And this one doesn't do a very good job of placing its red herrings. I'll hold that against it, that it doesn't really work as a mystery.
No. It doesn't
really work as a kind of whodunit in the way that the best movies in this genre do.
Because it throws throwing too much information at the audience, like about these characters' relationships. Because it's like, oh, she knows this guy because of this, and she knows this guy because of this, and oh, he knows this about her, and it just
yeah. So Jacinda Barrett wakes up in this tub full of ice, and she finds out that she's had her kidney removed, which is a famous urban legend. She tries to escape from this killer, who we don't see the actual face off. Tries to get out a window and ends up getting her head lobbed off in this window, which kind of loved that scene where her head just comes straight off, and then there's like a dog in the alleyway sniffing it.
This fight actually made me twinge a little bit, where she's trying to get out, and then he like gets her cut.
Yeah. He like jams his fingers right into it.
Sticks his fingers into the cut. And I was like, oh man, and she's grabbing at the barbed wires, and her hands are getting all messed up like that. And I was looking at the kidney, and when, of course, the dog pops up, I was just like, you know what? Fuck it. It's already out.
Sure.
Just give the dog the kidney. Who cares? It's me and you against the world, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of wonder what the point of him taking this kidney out of her was, just to toss it out the window to the dog. It's,
Right?
I mean, her murder doesn't really fall in line with the other murders that much. She's not all that connected to the other people other than that one guy. But I mean, it's obvious like he was out to kill her. But it's an awful lot of trouble to go to remove somebody's kidney with surgical precision and then sew them back up, leave them in a tub of ice, and then wait for them to wake up so that you can murder them and then feed their kidney to a dog. I don't know. It just feels a bit much.
Well, I was reading up that the whole reason for this reshoot, and that's probably why it feels so tacked on, is because there wasn't any stakes kind of built. There's no sense of urgency, or no one was dying for the longest time. So you never felt like the rush of they need to find who this killer is. So that's why they added the scene. But then to your point, it just makes you even more confused, because then you started thinking okay, so is this killer a past veterinarian, or has past surgical skills, and that's why they're able to? And they know a lot about urban legends, obviously, so they have to know that. It's just, I don't know, this got confusing.
This kind of hits on my biggest problem with this movie. And look, this movie has problems. Did I enjoy it? Sure. But the killer kind of sucks in this film, right? These franchises, any slasher franchise worth its salt has an iconic killer at its center. So when you think of Jason Voorhees, you think of the hockey mask. Even though he doesn't get the hockey mask until the third movie, you still think of the hockey mask. When you think of Halloween, you think of Michael Myers with that William Shatner face mask that he's got. Even Ghostface in Scream, even the fucking fisherman character from I Know What You Did Last Summer is an iconic slasher character. And the character design in this fucking sucks. It's it's somebody in a trench coat with in this one they've got a fucking fencing mask on for no reason.
The fencing mask is interesting, but the killer isn't even wearing it in the kidney scene, obviously, because it's his house or something. So it just kind of ruins the consistency of the aesthetic at that point. And just, I don't know, that whole scene bugs me for some reason. I just feel like it was poorly executed in the way that not that the death scene was poorly executed, because the death scene, her head gets chopped off by a window. I mean, it's pretty standard fare. It's
nice.
Good. Sure. Gross. But I just feel like they could have done a different scene there if they wanted to up the tension a little bit. Just I don't know, because it felt lacking and it just confused things.
At some point, the killer is wearing a mask over his mask. And it's just like, I don't know, it's jumping all over the place. Like, he just looks like Mac tonight.
Yeah.
It's not even anything else. So clearly, it felt like they didn't work backwards almost, where they got to the end of it and they're just like, yeah, who is the killer?
Yeah, maybe.
In the first one, the killer's just wearing a parka, and the whole thing about that is that like it's like winter time and everybody's wearing parkas. Like, it's the most generic of things.
Yeah.
You know, it's still creepy looking, but they keep spotting people in parkas, and they're like, oh, "What? I'm wearing a parka because it's cold outside."
And like nobody mentions fencing. Nobody thinks about it.
The fencing mask isn't really thematically related to anything in the movie. It looks cool. I love it.
Sure.
But it doesn't really belong in this movie. If somebody wants to make, a serial killer movie, but a serial killer that murders people wearing a fencing mask, and it's, I don't know, called Swordplay or something.
What I find interesting, all the things that you're mentioning, like the serial killer angle, the urban legends angle, like I feel like all of those are like kind of got lost. But the only thing that I kind of enjoyed about this movie is just like, oh, it's in a film school. So I realized I ended up watching this movie for just a totally different context for what it was actually trying to sell. I was watching it for the film school antics and not like the actual urban legends.
When I first watched it, I assumed that it was another script that had been modified to fit a franchise, but it actually, I guess, wasn't. And this is an example of like, because I feel like the urban legends parts of it kind of hold it back a little bit. I feel like this movie would have been better if they just hadn't made it an urban legends sequel, cut out all the shit about urban legends, and then just go with the whole film school angle and like, reality versus film and kept with that, because it works fine within the confines of its own, logic that way. But like, this is an example of how you have to kill your darling.
Sure.
The darlings in this movie were the urban legends.
Now I just want a film school horror movie now.
I'm sure there is one. I'm sure we can find one. So basically, I don't like the way Jennifer Morrison is like besotted with this Travis guy. She's kind of like peeking in on him as he's like editing his student film.
Mm-hmm.
I just want her to be focused on making a good movie.
Yeah.
Just be like singularly focused on that, please. We don't need this.
She's clearly just sidetracked because she's a procrastinator for someone that led her thesis. And like you said, so late in the game, just come up with her thesis now. So she's just procrastinating.
We get this comment that digital sucks and latex rules from Anthony Anderson and his little buddy Dirk. His little friend Dirk, by the way, is played by Michael Bacall, who has since gone on to write not only those Jump Street movies.
Oh, nice.
But he also wrote the script for Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, a BWN favorite. So yeah.
Love that movie.
Wow.
Do you think he actually doesn't like George Lucas?
I don't know, man. I kind of feel like this comes out a year after Space does that whole diatribe about how much The Phantom Menace sucks and how much George Lucas sucks. But no, maybe he doesn't like George Lucas. I don't know. They're kind of on the money, right?
See, that's what I wanted more of. Those commentaries of like what it's like to be in a film school, because I had a blast. Except for that one time where the guy was like, there was that scene that was putting the heaviness of like, I got a C minus. I was like, well, that's still a pass. That's
Yeah,
my
dude.
that's my
Everybody
only
has to start somewhere, asshole. Like, yeah, like getting the fucking arrogance.
This Travis character, we cut to him moping on his porch because he got a C minus on his porch. By the way, is up on Huron and Loafer. This movie was shot in Toronto, and when I saw his porch, I was like, oh, I fucking know exactly where that is. That's up by Casa Loma.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's moping on his porch because he got like a fucking C minus. And like Roddy says, like, who cares, man? That's a pass. That's a passing
Get up
grade.
tomorrow and try again.
So I wanted like more of this reality. I want that the fuck George Lucas guy to just come up and be like, shut up. Who cares?
Fucking A. Also, just a side note, there are so many shots of people rowing in this movie. I was kind of felt like I was watching The Social Network at one point. I was like, what is with all of these fucking rowing shots?
It's Peterborough. There are a lot of, gonna be careful how I phrase this. I wanted to say water sports enthusiasts, but that might sound wrong.
Holy shit.
Oh,
Is that what goes on in these small Ontario towns?
It's Peterborough. They do a lot of stuff in the river.
A lot of piss play in that river. Nice. I don't like Anthony Anderson's Girls Suck t-shirt that he's wearing on this film shoot, by the way. Not cool with that. Kind of reminded me, I don't know if you guys had them out here, but they were big in the UK in the late 90s. These porn star t-shirts that everybody was wearing. It was like this fashion brand with porn star emblazoned all the way across it. They sucked.
Yeah, 90s and 2000s were just bad in general in regards to that.
Yeah. So they're shooting Jennifer Morrison's student film. There's a disemboweled dog in this scene that looks stupid as shit. It's got like a string of sausages just hanging out of its tummy.
Yeah.
I was just kind of laughing at how dumb this fucking looks.
I don't know. A part of me was like, you know what? After Brahms, the boy or whatever, too, I was just happy there was a fake dog. I was like, that's how it should be.
Yeah,
Just
sure.
Fake dogs. That's all I need.
Yeah, we need a fucking moratorium on killing dogs in horror movies. I watched Don't Breathe 2 last night, and sadly one of the dogs buys it in that movie as well, which kind of sucks. But anyway, so they're shooting this movie, and there is a fucking great reference to the 1960 Michael Powell movie Peeping Tom here, in the way that this main actress gets murdered, Sandra.
Before that, though, when they're shooting this movie, I just want to say, this is, again, like, if they just touch on what it is actually like to be in film school, be great. Because they would do a whole prank just for, like a jump scare for the audience, where, like, they smash a very expensive light just to get the giggles. I'm like, that would, if you were a true person on the set, you would be seething, because that's a very expensive light that will come off of your tuition or your student fees, and they're just, like, laughing it off. I'm like, none of you are real. you don't know what it's like, because I remember the days of having to like take out equipment and physically just like checking everything, because if there's a scratch and you miss that scratch, they'll be like, that's on you, pay for that. So
I remember our fucking college got sniffy about us borrowing a fucking tripod, not even like a camera or any audio equipment. They got fun. Roddy, do you not remember this?
it was the biggest thing ever, and it was that's the thing, it wasn't really a film school, so I guess that was the case, but it touted itself of being able to access the equipment. Because honestly, the most important thing about film school, besides, like, I don't know, it's really, for me, it's like sometimes the access to the equipment, the very expensive, like getting that, you would never get like that anywhere else for like the budget. So like this movie, the fact that they have like a graveyard scene, a full-on built house, everything, I'm like, would I go to this school?
Well, it is meant to be the greatest film school in the world, apparently. I mean, look, I went to film school. We didn't have any of that shit. Yeah, we had to make do with like fucking stupid fucking VHS camcorders and stuff. So,
fun fact, Trent University has 2 reading weeks, which is unusual for a Canadian university, because usually it's only the colleges that have 2 reading weeks. Most universities only have 1 reading week, and apparently it's because Trent University, for some reason, for a while had such a high suicide rate.
Oh my.
That they added another reading week.
Wow.
That's what I heard.
That got dark.
Anyway, as I was saying, this is a reference to Peeping Tom, this scene where Sandra gets murdered. Even right down to like the red lighting and everything, and the fact that it's like vaguely out of focus. She kind of gets iced by this unseen killer who's like filming it all on a camera. And then they watch it back in the screening room, and they all think it's like legit footage and whatever, apart from Jennifer Morrison, the project's director, and she's freaking out. And that kind of reminded me of 8mm, where Nicolas Cage is watching the snuff movie and he's like losing his shit, although that reference is probably less intentional.
But I mean, yeah, it is a reference to snuff films, I guess, because there's been shows and movies that have done that before, where people accidentally film real deaths. People thought that that's what happened to what's his face on the set of The Crow, one of the Crow movies. Brandon Lee. People thought that they left it in the movie, and it's like, no, they didn't fucking leave it in the movie.
No, it's not in the movie at all. Of course it's not.
I actually wanted Sandra to be like the main lead of this, because I feel like every scene she was in, I was like, yeah, I'm stoked. Because even her switch from like fake screaming, like it was in the whole when they're watching it, where she's like doing this horrible acting how she's dying, and when it cuts to her actually being scared, I was like, this is like good acting to switch from that. And like she has the kind of this ability to draw you in, and if I don't know, she was much more entertaining to me than like Jennifer Morrison, who maybe wasn't given enough much, because like all the time I just never understood what she was doing. Like she's full on putting these pieces together that like something really intense is happening, but then no one logically does anything in this movie. Even in the first scene, when like the whole kidney thing, and she dials 911, which is very like legit. And the operator's like, ha ha ha, stop pranking. I'm like, no, you'd be a fired operator if you did that.
That's the worst 911 operator I've ever heard in my life.
That's a good one. Click.
But like outside, I guess that established kind of what everyone's logic in this world is. It's a world where like nothing is logical.
See, my thing is like, why was Sandra's keys in with the guts and stuff like that? Where I get it, right? Like, I'm sure if she was in the shower at some point, she was like, "Oh no, my keys are showing." But why weren't they with her purse? Why weren't they anywhere else? And why did she have to dig so far into the intestines to get them?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
I will say, when you've lost something and you truly don't know where it is, you kind of search in places that you know it's not there, but like, because you ran out of options, you will search there. So maybe it's that case?
Maybe.
Oh yeah, dude, I've like literally almost disassembled my dryer in its entirety looking for things that I felt I've lost before. So yeah.
So she was just dealing with that it was that kind of day for her.
I guess, but it was there. Why were her keys there? Like, I would have get if she's just like, I don't know.
Somebody stole her keys.
True. That's a better idea.
So this Travis guy apparently is so bummed out about his C- that he kills himself, which, you know, seems like a little extreme. We get a little shout out here when Hart Bochner's announcing it to the students. He makes a little shout out to Truffaut's Night and Day, which is just like excessively wanky. I appreciate it because I love that movie, but I was just like, come on, you're starting to be a little wanky with your references now. I like how stupid the fake out of Joey Lawrence being the killer is. Like, they portray him as being such an asshole that you're like, oh, he's got to be the killer, right? But no, it turns out he's just a fucking asshole.
Is this the guy that's like, you stole my genre?
No. That's the Anson Mount character, Toby.
Okay.
You know what it is? Why I got so confused with them? It's because they all wear the black...
Too many white guys?
No, it's just also they styled them as like a black leather jacket.
Yeah.
It's like every one of them that was kind of douchey, whereas black leather jacket, and that's why they all got confusing to me.
Oh, you're talking about the guy that
Was hitting on her.
accosts her at the funeral.
Yes.
Yeah.
And is like, I know who you are.
Yeah, sure. And we find out that she's actually the daughter of a fairly renowned documentary filmmaker and whatnot, which comes into play much later in the movie when this movie finally reveals its twist. But
Yeah.
we'll get there in a minute. This movie then does one of the most amazingly dumb fucking things a movie can do in that it introduces the twin brother plot gambit,
Oh,
where we find out that Travis has a twin brother called Trevor.
I hated it.
Yeah.
Might I add, Travis and Trevor for twins? That's not good.
Who
no.
does that? Also, I like, that's very much a soap opera flex.
Oh yeah, totally.
And I was like, does Trevor actually exist, or is it going to turn out that this is just Travis?
I was also wondering
yeah,
that.
I thought they were going to do that too. I was kind of hoping that's where they were going with it. Look, this movie wears its fucking Hitchcock references on its sleeve, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of love for Hitchcock in this film, and I think that's maybe why I kind of appreciated it. But the whole like having a twin show up literally moments after the funeral of your character is a very Hitchcock kind of thing to do. But again, this movie doesn't really manage to pull it off because it's kind of clumsy in the way it does it. If I faked my own fucking death and then showed up at Betty's the next day and was like, "Hi, I'm Neff's twin, Nafe," you guys would all just be like, "Fuck off, Neff, you're talking shit."
Yeah, that's a realistic reaction. But like Morrison here is just like, he never told me he had a brother, and that's it. That's the end of the questioning.
Right?
Is it Vertigo where she pretends to be somebody and then he sees her die and then he finds the actress again?
Yes, that's Vertigo.
And
yeah.
he's like, but you're her. She's like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. No. And later on, it's like, yeah, okay, it was me.
We get this French DOP that is working on the film called Simon.
Weird.
They do this thing where they're testing out this urban legend where apparently a load of people all scream at the same time at midnight, and when they're doing it, somebody gets murdered. So they test it out, and this Simon character, he gets clocked with a karate chop outside this building, and the soundtrack literally goes pa-pew as he does it. At that point, I was laughing so fucking hard that I couldn't be angry at this movie any longer because it's so fucking silly.
Yeah, because like it kind of implied that sort of urban legend. That what they say, who did she say was horrifically? She said it was a woman, wasn't it? That was horrifically. I would have expected it to be a female victim shrieking her head off alongside their screaming, but instead it's this guy who at first is just, taken by surprise and then starts yelling after a certain point.
And he just lays there. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was like, I get it, like he's in shock and it takes, but it's the longest between him going help and the final blow. It's I don't know if it's just me.
I think your patience, I think Neth has the opposite effect where he just kind of laughs, but I think my this movie tests your patience with logic, because like I was just furious for the scene afterwards where she sees the camera and like, so what happens is Simon gets killed, and then like for some reason Jennifer Morrison is like, oh, I heard it, and she goes after it, goes to the security guard, who's the worst security guard ever because she's actually not doing her job.
Oh, she's awful.
And she's literally just watching dancing videos.
She has no fucks to give anymore. Yeah.
Love Reese. She is bad at her job.
But like, then also security footage, and what was the whole deal of let me take the footage and watch it somewhere else instead of just watching it with the security guard and seeing them murdered right there, so that way you have both of you aware that someone died. Like, it made no sense. And I think at this point, that's when you go like, oh, I should enjoy how illogical this movie is and just be with it, or you just get mad at everything that's dumb after that.
I guess I went down that path because I was just like, are you fucked?
He was yelling for help. It's not like the entire campus was screaming. A bunch of people in one building were screaming in the building, so they couldn't hear him. But other
in
people
in a closed room. He didn't have the doors open.
Other people would have heard him, probably. Like,
and also, like, this is a huge campus, right? Are you telling me they've got one security guard for this entire campus? Are you kidding me?
Looks that way. Yep.
It's like, welcome to our film school, the best film school in the world. Just can't afford security.
It's because they keep paying to replace the fucking lighting rigs because they keep dropping them as pranks, right?
Yeah.
But I guess, like Laura, I don't know. I guess I was on the path where I just started making fun of it, but then it would just keep on doing illogical things that were just testing me.
Yeah, and then we get this scene where she goes into a sound booth that's kind of just ripped off from Scream 2.
Such a rip-off.
Where like the killers, it's like very blatantly stolen from that movie.
The thing with the piano where she's under the piano and then he starts just playing incredibly unsettling chords.
You know how bad that I wanted just this movie just to break itself and just like all of a sudden he just goes into musical rendition. Like just like I wanted so bad for that to happen.
Yeah.
But then it didn't.
All I can think of was like the ring wraiths from friggin' Lord of the Rings, where she tosses her bag and he's just like, oh, what's that? And then goes after it. Like, if he's playing the piano, my like thought process is that he fucking knows. So then all of a sudden, what's that?
Yeah.
A bag? Oh no, it's dumb.
One of my other notes was this murderer is really good at cleaning up crime scenes because, like, when they watched the footage of what's-her-face getting killed, she, like, stumbled into one of the, into the classrooms or production rooms or whatever. When they go in there, there's no body, there's no blood, I guess. I don't know. They don't find any evidence.
He's a little too dextery for my liking. Yeah, so they basically they have this chase where Jennifer Morrison is being chased by this killer. It goes on for far too fucking long.
Mm-hmm.
She ends up running through like a sewer tunnel and
how did she get there? Oh gosh, that's what I mean. The logic. First off, she just stumbles so much in this movie when she's being chased.
Yeah.
She stumbles, falls into this lake, and then all of a sudden she finds herself underneath this grate, but then also underneath like the sewers, pipelines, and factories, like the underground of the school. How do you go from the lake to like the underground of the school? And I'm just like, all right, movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a storm sewer that empties into the river.
Yeah, it seems a little contrived that it's all linked together like that, but sure.
I would buy it in like, say, like movie like Before Sunset, Before Sunrise. Like I feel like if I lived there, like clearly where their path that they're walking probably doesn't connect as well. But then this movie, I was like, I'm just analyzing it to death. Before Sunset didn't pay attention to it. This movie, like, no.
Yeah.
This movie makes no sense. Stop it, movie.
Yeah.
They rig up this mine ride at some theme park with a bunch of bodies for a film shoot they're doing. And like, why are you still making a movie when multiple people you know have died? Like, shift your focus.
I guess this was filmed at Ontario Place or something like that.
Apparently it was, right? And so did Ontario Place, this is before my time living in this city, did it used to have like theme park rides and shit?
Yeah.
It had rides, yeah. It kind of had a rotating stuff. It did have some theme park type rides, but it also had just a couple of different pavilions that switched in and out over the years and stuff that was for little kids.
Okay. because they've got all these animatronics in this ride, and these things all look like they're out of like Louis Tussauds in Niagara. Remember when we went to that place?
Yeah.
And we had a good chuckle at how terrible those fucking those waxworks were in that place. Oh, I still have photos of that. I should put them on our fucking Twitter, some of the photos we took in that place. Holy shit.
Absolutely.
I still have some of those.
Also, I'm just going to go another film rant where, okay, her friends work really hard to be like, oh, we got a location. And then she shows up to the location and this is going to be the tunnel. I'm like, first off, they got this prime location. And then you're going to get really pissed that they, like, this is a good location.
Yeah.
And you also have only 2 people doing all your art. So, like, stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obtaining permits to shoot here in itself would be a fucking nightmare. So I think she needs to be a little more gracious to her crew. Sorry.
Also, at this point, it's like, yeah, to be fair, this is why I don't like the main actress. Or not main actress, I like her, the main character, because she just has this conversation with Travis where they're like, oh, this person is like, oh, sorry, whatever. It's like, they don't even bother. Like, if they were in actual film school, they would know, like, the rule, like, don't name all your characters with the same letter. So, like, it gets confusing, as you saw. But, like, they did this whole thing, oh, this person's attacking members of this past crew because they try to figure out this whole, like, who's killing who. And so what they decide to do is, like, let's go take all our friends, like, all our crew to this location as a way to lure the killer. Like, you literally endangering your crew to solve this mystery that somehow you think you could solve because you have, like, what skills? What skills do you have? And, like, Travis is like, oh, don't worry about it. I'll protect you. With what skills?
He's not protecting her. He's literally lurking in a bush. He's doing nothing to protect her.
He dipped.
He did dip.
Totally dipped.
Amazing.
He did dip, but then she still was like, oh, well.
Don't leave me.
Yeah.
Don't leave me ever again. And then he leaves her. And then she's like, okay, don't do that again. And then he leaves her. So
this relationship sucks. It's kind of toxic. Anthony Anderson gets beamed on the head with a pickaxe and then he gets electrocuted. And Michael Bacall's character also gets like his digits smashed with the same pickaxe.
Oh, I didn't like that one.
No, that's kind of brutal.
That was rough.
Then he gets shoved into a fuse box, which apparently kills you, but also absolutely does not kill you.
Yeah, that's not how fuse boxes
then
work.
The cops investigating this turn up and they're just kind of like, these kids are stupid, right in front of all their friends after their friends have just been murdered. I'm like, this is the worst crime scene ever.
I guess they're working with the same 911 operator that said, oh, this is a prank. So this town where this university is has the worst police force known to man. It's terrible. Quite amazing.
And then this movie, because the hoary old plot of having a fake movie to begin with and then introducing a twin brother wasn't quite enough, this movie decides to throw in an "It Was a Dream" sequence too, and like,
oh my
it's
fucking god,
so bad it's great. Jennifer Morrison and this Trevor character are having sex, and then he pulls out a knife and stabs her in the back. And we're meant to be like, oh my god, he is the killer after all, and then it turns out it's all a dream. I was more focused in this sequence and the fact that this Trevor guy,
right?
Yeah.
He has really hairy forearms and like literally no body hair anywhere else. I was kind of like, is this guy wearing like tattoo sleeve equivalent of body hair? I couldn't understand what was going on with this guy's arms.
I love that in this scene of lovemaking. It's like, what's up with his arms and his chest?
Yeah.
See, it also felt like super forced as well. Like it was just she fell asleep and then guess what? They fucking and it's a dream.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like totally could have cut that out where she just like startles awake and he's gone. Wait, he left her? Really? Crazy.
Again, this is this movie trying to do this whole like red herring and trying to remember like, oh yeah, there's a mystery that we have to solve. Because there's one scene that I was like, yo, this is actually a really good scene. Like it has like, it does this thing where she's like jogging and then it has the fencing mask and then it transitions through all of the characters that we saw.
Yeah.
Like Eva Mendes, and oh god, Anthony and I can't remember their names, but like whatever. It goes through all of them and I'm like, that's a legitimately good scene, but you have not set up any of their motivations at all for me to go like, ooh, it could be them, except for the PA with all your lingering shots.
Yeah, they have this PA character who apparently apparently has tried to get into the film school and like has failed repeatedly, and they try and position him as maybe being the killer. They also do a fake out here where Eva Mendes is like a suspect for like a split second, and then the movie kind of fumbles it, and then just it kicks off like another chase sequence, and Eva Mendes gets murdered, and it's kind of like of no real consequence to anything. I love how they figure out that this has something to do with Travis, like the guy who apparently killed himself. They figure out it's to do with his thesis films, so they watch it, and then the moment it finishes, they just proceed to dunk all over it, like saying how much it fucking sucks. And sure, they do a reveal that like the titles have been switched so that what they were watching wasn't actually his thesis film, but it just seems like such a weird plot contortion to make that like the crux of your movie.
Well, that's what I was asking. Oh, that makes sense with the director being an editor, that the crux of the movie comes down to a splice.
Yeah, it all hinges on this one splice in the credits of this film. So we get the reveal that Hart Bochner is actually the killer. It's kind of out of left field. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's ripped right out of the Scream-free rulebook of randomly deciding who your killer is from like the scant number of characters you've got left in your script.
After all the Scooby-Doo sleuthing that she did, and there's a splice here and blah blah blah. Nope, that's not the thing.
But the thing is, though, it's like they even made this could have been solved if they just explained what the Hitchcock Award was. Because isn't the Hitchcock Award kind of focused on directors and giving the director their shot? So therefore, if that's the motivation, it wouldn't be a PA. It wouldn't be like a boom operator. It wouldn't be like the art deck. It would be a director.
Yeah.
Like someone in the higher up of like the one that's doing more of the show running, or like the not show running, but kind of the control of the ship of this film. It would be something that would be the killer. So then it makes sense if it's like someone like this professor guy or like the directors. So if she just thought of that first, she could have clearly avoided all her friends' death and crew.
Yeah, pretty much. And like the motivation for this is that Hart Bochner was a student at this film school. And he put his film in for this Hitchcock Award, and basically the vote was split between him and somebody else. So they got in Jennifer Morrison's dad, who was this documentary filmmaker, to cast the deciding vote, and it went against Hart Bochner, and he's been stuck as a teacher in this place ever since, while like the winner went on to become a Hollywood director. It's just such a dumb fucking reasoning for this guy to be a killer.
Yeah.
I kind of love it.
No.
Your one shot was this award, like your one shot, like okay.
They only get like a $15,000 stipend for doing it as well. It's not even that big amount of. I mean, it's a big amount of money, but really, in terms of like Hollywood paydays, it's not that big. It's not a life-changing figure, right?
I know, and like losing by just one person, I feel like, okay, that means still half of the people on it liked it, and that's still people that could probably get you a reference,
yeah, sure,
and still like push your work. But instead, it's like, this is why my whole life is crap.
Yep.
So now I'm going to murder in specifically urban legend ways.
Sure. So they have this big scuffle in this graveyard set, and there's a really cool kind of set piece here that I like, where all of these prop guns get spilt on the floor.
Yes.
And there's only like two real guns in the mix, and they're like scrambling to find the real guns. I'd never seen that in a film before. I thought that was pretty cool.
No, that was fun. Like, okay, it's so like, I think in my notes I was like, wow, this like climax and like all this is really fun. I just wish the other stuff that led to it was like at this par.
Yeah.
Because like the gun scene was great.
Yep.
Like again, like you've never seen before, tension, and like I just wanted more of that.
Yeah, I mean it stretches credibility because this Toby kid gets blasted through the wall by Hart Bochner. He gets like shot in the chest, and he literally enough for him to go flying through a wall. And then like literally 5 minutes later, he's fine, he's upright, he's walking around. It's like, what the fuck?
Somebody gets tossed through a wall onto like a space set where it's like a spaceship.
Oh yeah.
So he goes directly from darkly lit set to this brightly lit white space.
They have all these janky looking alien props there as well that just look fucking awful.
But like the only reason he survives is just to be a distraction of why they lose their attention and change the dynamic of the fight. And I was like, is that because all the other people, I'm like, why did they kept him? Like, he clearly just could have died at this point. Like, oh, okay. It's just for plot to like change up the fight dynamics.
Sure. And then we get this payoff line from Jennifer Morrison where she finally grabs the real gun and she says to Hart Bochner, "Those who can't do, teach."
Yeah.
I was like, ouch, that fucking hurts. That's a sick burn on every teacher everywhere.
She has like these great one-liners that I wanted more of, because like in the beginning I was like, oh, she's like the forebringer, or like she foreshadows people's death, because like to Sandra she's like, you can scream, right? I was like, well, obviously this is the button, and this is basically signaling that she's gonna die. And then before, when Travis was gonna get the C- and he's crying, she goes, Travis, it's gonna be okay. I was like, all right, you're signaling all everyone's death. And then it kind of just stops. Like none of that camp, none of that foreshadow, just it all disappears until it comes back in this one scene with the whole like, those who can't teach. I mean, those who can't do teach. What? Oh, well, yeah.
Those who can't do teach. Oof. Yeah. So basically, she shoots Hart Bochner, and everything kind of resolves itself. Except at the end, we get this amazing scene where Travis's brother Trevor is receiving this Hitchcock Award on his behalf. And this creepy PA kid is up in the rafters.
Yes.
And he pulls out like a fucking sniper rifle and he's about to like headshot this Trevor kid.
Yeah.
And amazingly, it's another fucking fake out.
Yeah.
That this is part of Jennifer Morrison's movie that she's making. Except I 100% believe that this was the ending of the film. Because at this point, I was like, this film is so daft that it would probably just end like this anyway, right? And then basically the movie fucking ends with Jennifer Morrison now being a fairly successful director. Joey Lawrence is now her agent. I'm not sure I'd want that fucking dickhead as my agent, but okay.
No.
And that's kind of it, except for we get this fucking scene over the end credits.
It does not make sense to me.
Which made zero sense to Laura because she hasn't seen the first movie, but we cut to Hart Bochner in what we assume is some kind of insane asylum.
Yeah.
And he's being tended to by a nurse played by Rebecca Gayheart, who was the killer in the first movie.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, and then it basically ends with her wheeling him through this hospital to the theme music from Alfred Hitchcock Presents, which I thought was a lovely little touch.
Yeah.
Rebecca Gayheart leans into him and says, I think we have a lot in common. And I'm thinking, why did Hart Bochner fucking kill a 9-year-old kid as well?
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah. Anyway, just to end on a bummer, but yeah. Would you guys recommend this movie?
No.
I'm drawing a blank, so probably not.
No.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank.
It's a waste of time.
No, not really.
You can watch so many other ones. You can watch Scream.
Yeah.
You can watch I Know What You Did Last Summer. You can watch Valentine.
Don't watch Valentine. It sucks. All right. Okay. Look, I'll be the fucking contrarian here then. Yeah, I would recommend this movie. I had fun with this. I thought this film was so fucking silly and so kind of like over the top that I really kind of had a blast watching it. I can't fault its aspirations. It's like cine literate. Like it has nods to Hitchcock. It has nods to Michael Powell. Just kind of stuff that I get off on. I think with like a slightly smarter script.
Yeah.
And maybe just like a maybe more confident directorial style, it would have actually been a legit great movie. As it stands, it's kind of clumsy. It's real stupid. But you know what? I had fun with it. I enjoyed it. And I'm sorry that you guys did not. I feel bad.
You know what? You made your own fun. That's fine.
It's not the worst thing that I've watched for this podcast. No,
Yes.
It's fine.
Okay, fair
It's
enough.
fun.
That was our episode on Urban Legends Final Cut, directed by John Ottman from the year 2000. Next week on the show...
負け組は用がないので死んでもらいます。なんで俺たちが戦わなきゃなんねえんだよ。今みんながつけてる首は同じ出席番号の人と連動してて、一人が死ぬともう一人も自動的にダーン
Yeah, すごい.
I mean, it would be pretty funny if we just left that in there and didn't say what we were doing, right? We just left that clip playing. No, next week on the show, we are going international, baby. We are doing Battle Royale 2 Requiem. Brace yourselves for some exploding teenage heads, is all I'll say on that
Fucking
one.
sick.
Is that like a band name or album? Because that's an interesting one.
Exploding Teenage Heads.
Yeah?
Love it.
Yeah, man, that's the name of my death metal band.
Cool.
Until then, we have been Bad with Numbers from Toronto, Canada. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on Instagram. You can email the show at BWMpod. We've even got a goddamn YouTube channel. So why don't you go like and subscribe some of the videos on there? Mm-hmm. Thank you very much for listening. Stay safe out there. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
And it is in the humble opinion of this narrator that this is not just something that happened. This cannot be one of those things. This, please, cannot be that. And for what I would like to say, I can't. This was not just a matter of chance. These strange things happen all the time. 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 Happen all